Hello. This is a video to demonstrate the whipped backstitch. It accompanies my pattern for making the geometer moth, which you see here. And this is the whipped backstitch that you're going to learn. It's just easier to learn it through a video than through photos in a pattern. Now, if you don't yet have the pattern, it's available in my Etsy shop at blueterracotta.etsy.com. So you'll need your wing. So these are the two wings. Should they go this way? These are the two wings. You'll do the same for the upper wings as well. You'll need to choose a thread, and I've used 4 strands of DMC thread. I'm using a monochrome color harmony, so darker green. I've used an embroidery needle with a pretty large eye, so I could get my 4 strands through. And of course you'll need scissors. Alright, so let's get started. So you have your wing, and I'm going to embroider from right to left this way. So backstitch is, as the name suggests, it's a backstitch. So you're going to start a little bit in from the end, not right at the edge. Come up, and then go back to the edge, the beginning of your line. Then go 1 stitch ahead. I'm keeping my stitches pretty small because this is a really small piece. Really small. You don't need to make them too big. I mean, you can do what you want, but they look a little better if they're, just tiny spaced, tiny stitches. There you go. I'm pulling it through, and then I go back in the same hole where I had come up before, so the first stitch. So ahead 1 stitch, pulling it out, and back to meet the stitch before. I've got 4 strands here, makes a nice thickish line. You could use 2, 3, 6, whatever. It depends what you want, what kind of line you want, what kind of texture you want. I use 4 a lot, so I think it's nice on this type of fabric. And then also we're going to put more stitches over it, another thread over it, so it's a good amount of strands. Okay, so I'm continuing on. All right, I'll do 1 more so you get the hang of it. So as you see, I'm doing the up and down method. I don't know, I forget what it's called, but you could also, let's see, if you came up, if you're up on your first stitch, or any time, you could decide to do it this way. The stitch method, keeping your needle on top of the fabric, you go down and then you go up 1. So all in one movement. Back down near the other stitch, or in the same hole as the other stitch, stitch before, and then ahead. So I don't usually do it this way, but it does go faster. It does go faster. You just have to be careful to not make your stitches too big if you want to keep them on a piece like this. On this one I went too far, as you can see. That's probably why I usually don't do that method, because it's harder to gauge the size of your stitches, I find. Anyway, that's just me. Alright, so we're at the end. Last stitch. The last 2 were too big, I admit. Now, if this happens and you really want to take them out, you could take them out. Take them out and make them smaller. As you can see, these are much smaller, and these are, the last 3 in fact, are too big. Okay, it's just for demonstration, so I'll leave it at that. Then on the back you'll tie off your thread. And then I tuck it under a couple of times to get that off the edge so it doesn't stick out. And clip it. This piece will need to either be tacked down or glued down so it doesn't stick out the front. And there you have it. It's part 2. We will do the whip stitch. Alright, so here we are for our second part of the stitch, which is the whipped part. We've done our back stitch. I've chosen a metallic thread to add to my color harmony here. It's really just green, and this would be like a neutral. I was going to use gray, but I thought having a little shine would be nice, so it's DMC Diamant. Metallic thread. So you only need one strand, so I've threaded my needle with one strand. There's a knot at the end, maybe a little too big. My knot might be a little too big. Get rid of that. And you are going to start. We're going again from right to left, and we're starting over here. You can either look at it like right to left, or you could hold it like this and go up. That might be easier for you. For me, I like to go up too. So anyway, I'm starting over here where I started before, and I'm going to come up through the back of the fabric underneath, just underneath that first stitch, just underneath, through the fabric, but not through the thread. Right? Pull it through, and I'm going to hold it this way. It's just a little easier, I think. I guess because, you know, it's easier to go like this than to do it down. You're going to go, then hold your thread, go under the next stitch without piercing the fabric or the thread, and pull it through. And continue doing that all the way down, but do not pierce the fabric or the thread. I know it sometimes sticks, yeah. Alright, like that, and then just pull it, and you'll see that after a few stitches you'll see the twisted effect. It's very pretty. It's great to have some kind of contrast, so either a light thread on a dark thread on a light, a shiny thread on a matte color, something that, oops, I think I got some, yeah, be careful not to get the fabric in. Alright, so if you think that you are going to pierce the fabric or the thread, the other way you can do it is to turn your needle around and put it in backwards. The eye in first. Be careful of your fingers and pull it through. So it's a way of not catching in the eye underneath, not catching in the fabric or the first thread, the back stitch. The other thing you can do, I'll show you now before I finish up. This is a tapestry needle. You could use this. And as you can see, it has a blunt tip. So it's really good for going underneath stitches. Actually, it's kind of big for these, but it will work, yeah. So in other words, you would come up as we did here through the fabric with an embroidery needle, take your thread out, thread it into this needle, go to the end. Then when we get to the end and we pierce it back, you'd have to put your thread back into an embroidery needle, a sharp needle with a pointy edge, you know, pointy end. So I'm going to continue on. I'm continuing on like this. This is fine. I wouldn't go out and buy a tapestry needle if it's only for this project. You can do it like that, or you can, oh, it's getting a little tangled. Go slow with metallic threads because they will get tangled. A little bit more than the cotton threads. Just pull it a little. You'll see the twist. It's starting to look really good. And here I've come to my 3 stitches that were a little too big. So it doesn't look as good. But anyway, we're at the end. So I'm gonna pull it on through one more time. Looks good. Looks great. And I'm going to just go down in the hole of the very last stitch of the back stitch. So the same hole. Go right down. Pull that in. Pull that through. Looks good. We're going to flip it over and we're going to tie off. I'm going to go over here and under my back stitching. So it's away from the edge. I don't want things sticking out like I do have over here. And then I'm going to make my loops and tie my thread off nice and tight, and then maybe go under twice towards the inside of the piece, inside of the wing, and trim it. Now this over here needs to be trimmed a little bit more. As we said before, we could add some glue, or we could take this here and take some cotton thread, regular sewing thread, and stitch those down so that they don't show. But anyway, as you can see, that looks great. This is what the finished one looks like. So you'll do the same thing on your upper wings. And don't forget that your friction pen, if you do your markings with your friction pen, they iron right out. Just put a pressing cloth over your piece and put some heat on it, and those lines disappear very quickly. Great. Okay, so thank you.